Kyle Rittenhouse found not guilty on all 5 counts he faced in the shooting deaths of 2 men, the wounding of another during protests, social justice protests last year in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We want to go right to NBC's Gabe Gutierrez. He's there. He's been covering this case from the start. Tell us what the reaction you're seeing right now is, Gabe.
Well, hi there, Lester. As you mentioned, Kyle Rittenhouse found not guilty on all counts. A small crowd of demonstrators that has really been here throughout most of the trial is also here within the past few moments. We have seen supporters of Kyle Rittenhouse say, "Free Rittenhouse," and also the Second Amendment is alive. And Lester, that is a theme that has run throughout this case. The jury apparently siding with the defense, which argued throughout this trial that Kyle Rittenhouse came down here to Kenosha to protect the city from rioters and that he only acted in self-defense once he was attacked. Of course, the prosecution had made the argument that you shouldn't be able to claim self-defense if this is a danger you helped create, essentially arguing that Kyle Rittenhouse was the aggressor. But this jury of 12 sided with the defense. Again, Lester, that Kyle Rittenhouse acted in self-defense. He is now found not guilty. You saw him inside that courtroom breaking down in tears, hugging his attorneys. But after a trial that lasted almost 3 weeks, the jury coming back with this verdict after about 24 hours of deliberations.
There were 3 people shot, Gabe, so the defense had contended in each of those cases that Kyle Rittenhouse feared for his life, that the others were the aggressors.
Yeah, that's exactly right. 3 people were shot. 2 of them were killed. The third person who was shot and wounded, Gage Grotzkreuz, actually testified earlier on in this trial. He was one of the prosecution's witnesses. Some legal analysts saying that some of his testimony actually ended up backing up the defense's claim of self-defense. But this is a trial that got a lot of attention here in Kenosha and really around the country as testing the limits of self-defense. And for those who may not have been originally familiar with this case, this all happened during the unrest that followed the police shooting of a black man, Jacob Blake. Rittenhouse coming to Kenosha from his home in Antioch, Illinois, just over the state line, and bringing an AR-15 style rifle. Now, Lester, he originally was charged with more counts, and at one point during this trial, the judge actually dismissed the 6th count of gun possession by a minor. The defense arguing that Wisconsin law did not apply to long-barreled rifles, and so that count was dropped. Some legal analysts say that count perhaps was the prosecution's best chance of a conviction, but they did not have that. That did not go to the jury. They were deliberating on 5 felony counts, the most serious of which was first-degree intentional homicide. And as you mentioned, Lester, if convicted, he faced the possibility of life in prison. But again, the jury siding with the defense, finding Kyle Rittenhouse not guilty on all counts.
And we note, of course, those on the courthouse steps behind you. Can you characterize the crowd, how the crowd may have reacted at the verdict?
Yes, Lester, behind me, there's been a small contingency here outside the courthouse each day, and many of them were actually supporters or family members of Jacob Blake, the man who was shot and paralyzed in that police shooting. They were here each day. Several supporters of Kyle Rittenhouse as well, and supporters of gun rights had actually been outside this courthouse. There have been a few minor skirmishes, a few arrests outside of the courthouse, but Lester, the temperature here in Kenosha in terms of unrest is much different than it was last summer when all these events unfolded. Most of these demonstrations have been peaceful, but still, Lester, there had been a tension over the city. Just this week, several schools had switched to virtual learning in anticipation of a possible verdict. The governor had authorized several hundred National Guard members to be on standby. They were never deployed, but there was a lot of there was some tension here and a lot of preparation by local authorities not to have a repeat of what had happened last summer during the initial unrest following the shooting of Jacob Blake. But again, the reaction here, Lester, just some minor reactions saying, supporting the Second Amendment from those who are happy to see this verdict and who supported Kyle Rittenhouse, with the jury finding him not guilty on all counts.
All right.
Lester.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.